Welcome to the battle of the floor washers, including the Bissell Crosswave Pet Pro, the new Tineco iFloor, and the Hizero Bionic Mop. We put them all through a huge battery of tests and found that each one had their strengths and weaknesses, so links in the description for current prices, and let's get started. I should mention that one of these, the Hizero, was sent to me for free to do a review, and I'll link that review in the description, but with this video I went to great lengths to make these tests as objective as possible, which leaves very little room for favoritism on my part. The primary difference between these three is that two of them are battery-operated cordless units. The Tineco iFloor has about 20 minutes of battery life per charge, and the Hizero about 60 minutes. The Bissell Crosswave is of course corded with a fairly short 22-foot cord. They all do the same basic things and operate in a very similar way. For example, they can all pick up dry debris like a vacuum cleaner, but are primarily used as hard floor washers. The benefit of them being able to pick up large or dry debris is that you can mop your floor without vacuuming first. They all can also pick up spills of liquids or thick material of various types. They all operate by filling a clean water tank with warm water and a cleaning solution. You turn on the motor, which spins the brush. All three have a low and a high power setting, which spins the brush faster for tougher stains. The Tineco and the Crosswave have a trigger that you push, which sprays the water to soak the brush, but the Hizero dispenses the water automatically. When the job is done, the dirty water is collected in the dirty water tank. As we'll see later, they're not all equal in terms of how they separate the water from the larger debris, which affects cleanup considerably. So let's start off with the cleaning tests, and I should mention that I only used warm water for these competitive tests, no cleaning solution, so that I could better determine the differences in the performance of each unit. Starting with some wet spills, we found that they were all able to pick up the grape juice very easily. I only ran them for one back and forth pass, but none of them showed any residue, which I thought was pretty impressive. When we increased the thickness of the spill though, like with a Thousand Island or yogurt test, we started to see a pattern emerge that while they were all able to pick up the spills, the Crosswave was leaving more residue behind, followed by the iFloor, with the Hizero doing the best in terms of residue. I increased the chunkiness of the spills with SpaghettiOs and thick salsa, and found that the Crosswave and iFloor struggled a little with the larger debris compared to the Hizero, which did allow for the larger bits. We did also find further evidence that the Crosswave and iFloor were not as good as the Hizero at picking up all the residue. The next test was using stuck-on debris. In this case, grape juice and V8 juice were dried to a very sticky and hard consistency. I tested this in a lot of ways in the original review videos, but for this test I dried exactly 1 tablespoon of the material and mopped at the same very slow pace. Here I found that all three picked up the debris in 3 slow passes. It seemed that iFloor was slightly better than the Hizero in terms of picking up more on each pass, with the Crosswave being the worst in that regard. But again, the story here was the residue. In this case, both the iFloor and the Crosswave left a dry, hard to remove stain on the white PVC panel, where the Hizero left only the barest of marks and only where the stain actually was. I also tested them all in various real-world settings, mostly mopping typical dried spots on our studio floor or our kitchen. Although it was harder to judge which one was better than another with this test, I did find that they all did the job and did it really well. In fact, I used the Crosswave to mop our new studio floor when we moved in, which really needed it, and was very satisfied with the results. As I've mentioned before, using these floor washers to clean up thick material with a lot of debris requires a lot of cleanup. There are 2 main sections that require cleaning. The first is the brush and the bottom of the unit, including the interior components when you remove the brush. For the most part, this section can be cleaned using the cleaning trays that all 3 come with, which operate more or less the same. You basically either pour water into the tray like the Crosswave, or just use a new tank of clean water and run the machine for a few minutes as it cleans itself off. I did find these trays to be pretty effective, and in most cases this would be good enough to clean the unit without disassembly unless you cleaned up a particularly nasty spill, in which case I would recommend also wiping down the unit, soaking the brush, and letting it dry in the rack. The other thing that needs cleaning is more troublesome. That is the dirty water tank. By far the best of all 3 was the Hizero, which has a pretty sophisticated strainer which separates the solids from the liquids. You basically just open it up and toss the disposable plastic tray, or you can clean it and reuse it either way. So in the case of the Hizero, the dirty water tank can be poured down any drain since there's no hair or debris. In general, the cleanup on the Hizero was pretty minimal, though if you did clean up a stain that might spoil, like yogurt or something, I would take out the brush and wash it just to be safe. The iFloor and the Crosswave have basically the same dirty water tank construction, and man, those things get debris in every nook and cranny, like under the filter, everywhere. Again, this is mostly if you're using it for really nasty jobs. However, when I use the Crosswave for a light job, like when I mopped our new studio floor, yeah, it turned the water black, but other than that, it didn't really require much additional cleaning. In fact, I didn't even judge it necessary to clean anything after that job. But if you're using it for spills or a lot of solid debris, it is a royal mess. The Crosswave Pet Pro does come with a strainer in the dirty water tank, but it really doesn't work for most solid debris, but it does work for pet hair, and that's really helpful. With the iFloor, which doesn't filter out pet hair, you would want to pour the contents in the toilet or outside or in a sink with a strainer of some kind in it. So you're probably developing a picture of which one of these is the best by now. But before you make your decision, let me fill you in on some other important pros and cons of each. As discussed in the individual review, the Tineco iFloor has an issue where it leaks if you wait too long to empty the dirty water tank. It's not a huge deal, but definitely something you want to know about. The Hizero, which I honestly think is the best of all three of these, does have some drawbacks that you should be aware of. Number one, it's by far the most expensive of all three, but if you see our full review, you will see that it does have reasons for that. But the other drawback is the brush. It's a unique brush, which works really well, but if you leave it unused for more than a few days, you'll need to soak it in water before each use since it dries out over time. So yes, soaking it before each use for a minute or two is a bit of a chore if you don't plan on using it every other day or so. So the Hizero would be my first choice, but my second choice would depend on if I was planning on using this for large jobs. If so, I would get the Crosswave because it has a cord, since the iFloor's battery life of 20 minutes is pretty limiting. But we actually do keep an iFloor in our studio closet as our choice to quickly grab and mop floors with, and that's because it's the most convenient for quick jobs. It's also the cheapest, and as we've seen, it's the best at cleaning tough stains. Links in the description to all three of these units, and consider a like if this video helped you out, or even better, a subscription to Vacuum Wars. Thanks for watching.